Siebes, I wrote an article for the paper today about the Roosters and the decline in the Roosters and how they went into the season equal premiership favourites and they really haven't lived up to that. Can you pinpoint why? Like they're not even. We expect them to be a great team. They're not even a good team.
No, mate, they're not. I think with the Roosters, we expected them to be high flying, like top 2 or 3. I don't know if they are playing a style of footy that suits the players that they've got. So they seem to be trying to shift the ball around a fair bit when the style of player that they've got, they need to play well. I think they need to play direct and straight through the middle. But then they're caught in between. They're confused. They look confused. Are we going to play direct? Do we go straight through the middle? Do we try and shift the ball, get to the edges? And then all of a sudden blokes like Brandon Smith, who we would have assumed that he would have had a great year, he actually looks really bad, and so much so he got dropped to the bench on the weekend. We spoke about it last week that Turpin probably is the better option at hooker for them anyway. Swatali'i, arguably, one of their most dangerous players. Teddy, their best player. They're non-existent. They're not getting any footy. And when they do get it, they're getting it in terrible positions. One
of the things I spoke about in the article today was the form of James Tedesco and whether or not he's definitely in a slump, but is this a permanent thing? Because if you look over the past 5 years, he's averaged over 200 metres a game. This year it's 160. So we're talking about 20% drop-off there. And with that, we expect Teddy to bring the ball back, bounce off tackles, threatening with half line breaks. So the fact that they're missing that not only is it his biggest skill, but the biggest threat of the whole team, really.
Yeah, I think it could be... It could be because of how the team's going as well. So weight of possession, that little drop-off, Roosters aren't playing well, they're making a lot of mistakes. So where the opposition's getting the ball is probably in a better position than what they would normally get it. So Roosters seem to be making a lot of mistakes in their own half. That's going to take away a lot of Teddy's kick return meters because, there's a lot of good ball kicks there. So they're attacking kicks. Teddy's probably just taking a bomb or... either wingers taking a bomb and not being able to make those meters. But the one thing I have noticed about him, you're right, he's not bouncing off tackles and, bumping himself into space and continuing to make those meters.
We're going to have a talk about Origin today, so we won't focus too much on Clubland today. But was there anything else in the club round over the weekend that stood out for you?
Oh, Parramatta make me sad. I didn't get to see it live. Yeah, I watched it later on, and knowing the result, it was even more frustrating because they actually did enough to give themselves a chance to. Well, they were in the game. They did enough to win the game, but I suppose when you're missing your best player in Mitchell Moses, you're not going to ice all of those opportunities. I think Sean Lane's going to be a big loss for them. He just started to look like he was going well again, and they need to start winning some games soon.
They do, and this Origin period will be crucial to them. They've already lost Regan Campbell-Gillard. You figure they'll probably lose Junior Paulo as well.
That's right, yeah, definitely. I mean, Paulo's... He should be one of the first forwards picked for New South Wales.
Hopgood's half a chance for Queensland.
He is, yeah. Although we'll get there. When having a look, I couldn't find room for him.
Neither could I.
But it wouldn't shock if at some stage during the 3 games he gets a run.
Yeah, absolutely. And they do need to start winning games, and they need to start winning big games now. Like you can't afford to be losing to the Titans anymore. And the Raiders are coming. You were on that bandwagon for a long time, and it's coming good, isn't it? They're finally making me not look stupid.
But I mean, without turning this into the I Love Para and Hate Broncos podcast, which I know, there's always that risk of it happening. But the Broncos, they went okay. The Storm aren't. You're a Storm fan. You'll admit the Storm aren't a great footy team either. They're a good footy team.
Yeah.
But they were always comfortable in that game.
I really fear for them for them to win the comp, the Storm, that is. They probably do need Pappenhausen to win the competition.
They definitely do.
And I don't think they're good enough right now to. It might change, but they're not good enough right now to contend for a comp. In saying that, though, I think at the moment there's two standout teams right now. And then the rest is sort of like there's only probably
Are you talking
5%.
about Penrith and Souths? Yeah, I agree.
There's probably only 5% difference between the rest of the.
Yeah, I mean, we could quickly, the Storm, they did enough. They did enough to win. They weren't troubled. Dogs are yuck. Warriors are a gritty top side. They stay in every contest, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And it just comes back to that effort areas. The teams like the Dolphins and the Warriors, they've got that in spades, and that's keeping them in a lot of games.
Yeah, the Panthers finally clicked. Jerome Luai was outstanding on the weekend.
Jerome Luai, for any doubters that he'll be the number 6 for New South Wales, that's put to bed now.
And you asked me last week who were the standout players live at Magic Round, and he's the guy that for me stood out just because of the amount of bad publicity he gets from punters online and even in the media. He's got something about him. He's got X factor, and he was on the other day. But the Roosters were horrendous.
Just on Luai, I know I've mentioned it to you before, but him to the Cowboys is such a perfect fit, isn't it?
Yeah, the Panthers will not let him go.
You don't think
they'll
so?
let Dylan Edwards go if they have to choose.
That's
my opinion.
It's an interesting choice if they have to make it. The other games?
Well, Rabbits weren't great, but they were just too good.
I will say with the Rabbits, they 20-0. It's not some extravagant score, but the fact that they've been up for about a month now, playing big games against big opposition, I actually found it really impressive.
Yeah, they did well. They looked in control the whole game. Tigers fought. The Tigers have a crack, don't they? I mean, no one's going to say that the Tigers give in. They're just not a good footy side.
Yep, and we move on to the Cowboys and St George. That was the worst half I've ever seen, St George's first half.
And the second half was 50-50 for one of the worst halves of footy I've seen in general.
Yeah, the tackling efforts by St George in the first half.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So my prediction of St George putting up a fight because they seemed to like the coach was way off the mark.
No, and I think there might be a different scenario by the time this podcast comes out as well. We've spoken about Raiders. Newcastle.
Callum Ponga.
Could you ask for a better effort by your team this year if you're Adam O'Brien? This is as good as they can possibly play.
It is,
squad.
yeah. They got smashed last game. Para absolutely towed them up. You put a form line through everything, and Para aren't going good. They've turned around and they've done this. Titans, in the blink of an eye, Titans went from being 6 points up to down by 18.
Yep.
It was
they
so
didn't touch
bizarre.
the ball for 10 minutes.
And two of those tries were just absolutely brilliant from Kalen.
Oh, no doubt.
It was so good to see him take the ball to the line, use that step and dummy, and it looked great.
And finally, Sharks beating Manly. A bit of a similar story to last week when Manly were really bad in the first half. Though I definitely won't say Manly were as bad.
Oh,
this
no.
week.
Well, they weren't. They didn't drop the ball. Like, the
That's
completions
right.
were there.
Completions were there. It's just that we said this last week. Tom's not right, and the fact that they don't have an established 9, they've got Cherry, obviously. They've got Cooper Johns at 6, who's a borderline first grader.
Yeah, so I think the turning point, so their best player is Cherry Evans.
Yeah.
So I don't think Trbojevic was too bad yesterday. He looked like he had a bit of energy back, a bit of a spring.
Second half, he got much better.
Yeah, I just think he needs one big play, and he did a couple of good moments yesterday, and then the confidence might be back because it's not injuries. It's just him believing that he can be himself. That's what it is.
There was one play the commentators highlighted it a few times, and I didn't really understand why. So there was one play where Manly put a kick through, and Sharks had the ball on their own 10, and Tom made the first 3 tackles of the set, right? So and he was coming out of the line off marker to try and
lift everyone.
Yep, really putting in a big effort. Then he went and stood out on the wing.
Yes,
and the Sharks went.
Bang,
switch.
Yeah.
I thought it was actually more genius by the Sharks.
It was
not Tom's lack of ability to chase it down. He was gassed.
Yeah, he probably does 3 tackles a game, and he just done 3 in one set.
Yeah,
yeah. No, I agree with you. And then they decided to make a point of it.
Yeah.
For me, the turning point was, and the reason why Manly lost that game yesterday was Daly Cherry Evans not putting that kick out on the full.
That was a bad one.
It was 8-0. Manly had weathered the storm. They had no pill at all. When they did get it, they were coming off their line. They were finding a way to get through their sets. Momentum had started to shift. Cherry Evans doesn't kick it out.
Yep.
Cronulla score 14-0.
Yeah, it's such a
It was huge.
When
In the
you s-
end, 20-14 was the final score.
when you're struggling,
Yeah.
it's really tough. Although there was a period in that second half, Manly had the ball for about, it must have been 6 sets on the Sharks line, and Sharks defended it really well. Manly just need another point of attack. They need Schuster back.
They do,
really
because
quick.
that goes back to the Cooper Johns,
Yes.
argument that you mentioned before. My wife's always said to me, "Oh, the Sharks seem to be just getting up too quick for them." I said, "Well, it's probably more about how slow the ball's shifting to the left, more than how quick the Sharks are getting off their line." Cooper Johns is a serviceable first grader. He does the job, but things are a little bit slower around him. He doesn't have that X factor or that point of difference.
He doesn't have an elite trait.
No, and defensive lines know that. We just get up hard on his outside men. You mark up on Travojevic out the back. Keep an eye on Parker. Things are limited.
And they move on to the Raiders next week, which is a tough game in itself. Now, our top 5 for the week, centres. We've gone centres. Now, I found this a lot easier than wingers. I think that there are a clear group of elite centres in the game.
Yep.
And between 1 and 2, you can have arguments there. But we'll start with number 1.
And we agreed that Joey Manu
Not a centre.
is a 5'8".
Yes, he's a 5'8" for the moment. Yeah, otherwise, for me, he is number 1.
Yep.
So, Campbell Graham, number 1 for me.
Yeah, he's not my number 1, but he's my number 2. Stephen Crichton's my number 1.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's good.
Better than Campbell Graham?
Yes.
Wow.
Which will be an interesting discussion when we look at our Origin teams later.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's in my mind, he's better.
That's interesting. I definitely don't have him. I could make an argument for him at number 3 if I was pushing it.
Yeah.
Campbell Graham, defensively, there's no one better.
Yeah. I don't know if I buy that.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's an elite centre, and he's my number 2, so we might as well get that out of the way now.
Yeah.
You know how sometimes in the media and within the community or in public, people grab hold of something and just run with it because it's been said a few times, and all of a sudden it must be true, so let's roll with it. He's an elite centre. He's an excellent defender, but he misses a hell of a lot more tackles than what you think.
So
I'm just reaching for a stat, so if you can just pad for a bit.
Ad-lib,
yeah, just pad for a bit.
Okay, so that's interesting. So Campbell Graham's my number 1, and then at number 2 you've got Campbell Graham. So I've got Val Holmes. So Val Holmes, if the Cowboys didn't have Val Holmes and Tom Dearden, they are pushing for a wooden spoon right now. They are in all sorts of trouble. Val is, he come back from the US after his NFL stint, and he was really ordinary for a long time. But he is now in, I believe, career best form as a centre.
He's dangerous with the footy, isn't he? He seems to
runs hard.
Yeah, he does. He runs hard. He seems to break the first tackle every time.
Yeah,
he's got that bit of explosiveness back in his game. He obviously put a lot of weight on or a lot of muscle on when he went away and had a crack at the NFL. I mean, everyone saw Jared Hayne was the same. When he come back, he just wasn't the same.
Yep.
They just seem to get too big because it's short, sharp bursts.
It must take a long time to recondition your body then to be able to get back into form, because he's in great form at the moment.
Just on that Campbell Graham, so just in the last 2 weeks alone, last game he was at 80% for his tackle efficiency, which is boring for most people, but that's the last game. And then the game before, so I actually thought I could jump on this app and it'd go through and show you. You used to be able to find it for the year, what their tackle efficiency was like. And then the game before, he actually missed 6 tackles out of his 16 made. So that's, around 60-odd% tackle efficiency. So my argument is...
Campbell Graham, 84% for the year.
Yeah, so he's not as actually a one-on-one making his tackles. He's not as good as what people think he is, but he reads the play well. He does read the play really well. How did you find that? That was just for those out there that want to know.
League Live app.
League Live? Yeah, that's what I was on. I just couldn't use it properly. Can you give me a Stephen Crichton? This is great content.
Stephen Crichton, so he's at 90 for the year.
Yeah, so one-on-one defensively, I don't know if Stephen Crichton makes the same reads as well as Campbell Graham, but he's a better tackler.
He's having the best year of his career defensively, Stephen Crichton.
Yep.
So previously he's been in the high 70s, early 80s,
Yep.
but this year he's at 90%.
And Graham, he's always floated around that 80.
Let me just go in to see Campbell Graham. So he's got 84 this year, 88, 90,
Okay.
87. So
Yeah. So 85 roughly over the last few years it'd average out to be.
I would say, though, that this is the best complete year of Campbell Graham's career.
Attack-wise is the best he's ever played.
Yeah. So Graham won.
And yeah, so we're back to Graham. Graham's your one.
Yeah.
He's my two.
Okay.
Crichton's my one.
Okay. Who's your three?
My three is Val Holmes.
Val Holmes. Okay. For all the reasons outlined.
Yeah, everything's set. Yeah.
So my number three is Justin Olam. There's a bit of theme going on with their top fives, and I love people that can change a game. And to me, he's definitely one of them, particularly in defence. And he used to be just a bit of a one-trick pony when he first came into the NRL, but to me, he is very much a complete player at the moment. So I got him at three.
My four. So I'm up to four.
Yeah.
It's actually a Herbie Farmworth.
Same.
Herbie's not the best defender, but attacking-wise, he could be nearly the best attacking centre in the comp. Just the way he can turn a game at the drop of a hat. He can beat someone one-on-one. He can push into space and expose someone with his blistering speed. But also, how many times do you see Herbie come in, take a simple scoot or a hit up, and he actually breaks the line and goes through and makes meters and sets something up. So he's my number four.
When the Dolphins come out and sign him, I said that would be the most impactful signing that the Dolphins have made so far. And he is such a great player. Do you think fullback is in his future or stay at centre?
Oh, he could definitely play fullback, with ease, but he's just such a good centre. I don't know why you would want to move him. And going to the Dolphins, you wouldn't because Hammer's there. So, again, Hammer could play centre as well, and he's played centre before. He's played a lot of rep centre. I think Herbie Farmworth at the Dolphins in the centres makes them dangerous.
Sneaky fast, Herbie Farmworth. He is lightning
he is
quick. And the play to highlight over the weekend was it was the Broncos' first try, the penalty try, when Harry Grant and him were rubbing shoulder to shoulder. And Harry was sprinting by the time Herbie was flat-footed.
Just on that, penalty try, no penalty try?
I'm okay with the penalty try.
Yeah.
It's funny because if you ask a Broncos fan, they probably would have rather the sin bin.
Oh, of course I would have. I just don't know. I don't know how that's a penalty try. At no point did Harry Grant try to do anything but get to the footy. They were jostling for the footy, and I could have copped a penalty.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just didn't think he tried to stop Farmworth from getting there. I thought he was trying to get to the footy.
Yeah, fair enough. And my number five is Stephen Crichton.
Yeah, okay. Stephen Crichton, we've spoken about him. He's just such a big, strong, athletic centre. He's got really good hands. He can score a try. Whether it's beating someone one-on-one, he can out-jump someone for a try. Defensively, he hits like a bus. And, I just think he's an elite centre. My five is Olam.
So we've got the same top five.
Yeah, it's just in a different order.
Yep. And that'll be interesting going into our State of Origin teams, which we'll discuss now, because by the time our next podcast comes out, the Origin teams will have been named.
It's funny. So out of our five centres that we've just named, obviously one's a Papua New Guinean international, one's an English international, but I've only got room for one of the others in the centres, but we'll get there.
Any honourable mentions for the centres?
Look, no, I think the blokes that, Will Penasini, in years to come, I think someone like him and Cooler from Manly could become elite centres. They're both so young and they've got attributes about them that I can see making them to be that top echelon. But blokes a few years ago that I would have said the same thing about were Bradman Best and Lomax. Lomax is playing reserve grade, and Bradman Best, apart from Ponga putting one on for him yesterday, he just stands out there.
Katoni Staggs, another one?
Yeah, Staggs is way off the mark now in my mind. whether or not he doesn't seem to be as explosive. So those last couple of injuries he might be still trying to get himself back right from them. But do you agree? He doesn't seem to break the same amount of tackles.
Oh, absolutely. And, the guy to me who's really sticks out for me is Bradman Best, because he, to me, has all the skills to be an elite centre.
Yep. Like Mel Meninga size, but he's quick.
Yeah. He's lightning fast and built like a brick shithouse.
Do you reckon he's one of those guys that are paying the price? You think Bradman Best is only young? He'd be, 21 maybe?
22, I think.
Yeah, so 3-4 years ago, he's playing schoolboy footy. He wasn't much smaller than what he is now. As if he had to try hard.
Yeah.
He would have just run straight over the top of everyone.
Yeah.
Scored at will.
It was maybe a little bit similar to someone like a David Fafita.
Yeah, definitely.
At the time, and I think David has come through that.
Yeah, he's good now.
He's really evolved into a great player, David Fafita.
But even Fafita immediately still did things that made you sit back and go, wow, this bloke, he's good. He's got something about him.
Yeah.
Bradman Best has never done anything for me to go, apart from looking at his rig and how good it is. You sit there and go, I don't know. Yeah.
So we'll move on to our origin teams. You want to start Queensland?
Yep.
All right. So number 1, Ponga.
Yeah, I agree. He's my one.
Cool. So on the wing, I've got Gagai and Coates.
Same.
Yeah. So at the centres, that means I've got the Hammer and Val Holmes.
Yeah, so this is going to be nice and boring because I reckon we've got the same halves.
Yeah, well, there you go. So Munster and DCE, they pick themselves. Now, this is where might be some jostling here. So Hunt and Grant is the combo I've got at 9 and 14.
Who do you start?
I start Hunt.
So do I.
Yeah. If it ain't broke.
Yeah, exactly. It works a treat.
And Hunt can still continue to play at a roving 13 role if you wanted him to.
Yeah, and freshen him up. He's there. They've got so much versatility with Munster, who could slip into the centres. He can play fullback. So if something happens, one of those outside backs, they can shuffle things around pretty easy.
Starting front rows, I've got Welch and Collins.
Okay, so I've got Welsh. I've got Tino as the other starting prop.
Okay, so this is where it'll change a little bit because I do have Tino in the team, but he's just on the bench. So back row is Capewell and Kafusi.
Okay, so Capewell's not in my 17. He's not even close to it.
Okay. The only
Speaking
reason
of blokes who can't tackle.
The only reason Capewell is a pretty solid there for me still is the fact that he can play centre.
Yeah, that's right. And I see where you're coming from, and with the footy, very good. I just think his defence has fallen way off.
In last year's Origin series, he actually spent more time at centre than back row.
Yeah, he did.
Which is pretty phenomenal when you think about it.
And he played centre was it the series? Might have been 2 series, his debut series, he played centre. Well, I've actually gone for Fafita. I just think if he ever deserves to get picked, it's now.
Yes.
So I've got Fafita and Kafusi.
Carrigan at lock?
Yep, picks himself.
Okay, so the other 3 forwards on the bench, I've got Tino, Fafita, and Arrow is my last one.
Okay, I didn't have any room for Arrow.
Yep.
I've got Lindsay Collins.
Yes.
So he's, he's excellent. I've got Gilbert.
Yep.
Because Gilbert can play back row as well.
No doubt.
And it's probably Arrow and Gilbert were my toss up for that final position, and I just think Gilbert offers a little bit more. Close one, but that's the direction I would go. And who's your fourth?
So I got Grant. So Grant, Tino, Fafita, Arrow.
Oh, Fafita and Arrow. Okay. Yep. So I had my last position. I've actually tossed up between Collins, Cotter, and Papali'i. I've gone Papali'i.
Right.
I just think at that level, the other middles that they've picked can play enormous minutes. So if you can get 15, 20 minutes out of him, which is what they did last year, he's a big, strong man. He's a leader. He can go out and take someone's head off from the start of the game and then put him on ice. If you need him again, he's there, but otherwise...
I love that you mentioned Tom Gilbert. I love Tom Gilbert. He's a great player, and I agree that it's between him and Aaron. I wouldn't have a qualm with going in either direction. He is such a great player, and he has been for the Dolphins all year. He would be unlucky to miss out if he was to miss out. I agree with Papali'i. If Papali'i is to play, it has to be off the bench in the middle part of the game, because last year, and I don't understand why they were doing it. They were playing him till the 20-minute mark, and then that was it. We didn't see him again.
Yeah.
So
I get why they were doing it. I think they wanted that leader out there.
now that Welch is back, though,
Yeah, different type of player though. And I don't know. I would actually probably, whether Papali is named at number 17 or number 10. You know, who cares?
yes,
I think I'd start him.
yeah.
Him and Welsh, and then I'd bring Tino on, and Tino plays out.
I do like having. I think it's important to have either one of Tino or Carrigan off the bench, and with Carrigan being,
Carrigan plays 80, doesn't he? Like,
yes, but we just saw last year that both when they came on, they just brought so much into the game.
Agree.
And Carrigan in particular, like to win he won the Wally Lewis medal in his first season, as a Queensland player. So his impact was just undeniable. And talking to Josh Hannay about this, Josh always saw that Pat Carrigan was going to be a really good player. But last year he really became one of the elite middles in the game off the back of that series. 18th man, I actually think is really important to mention for Queensland, and I'll say why. For me, it's Reece Walsh, because if you've got any concern about Kalen and his injuries, if he gets a head knock due to foul play, Reece Walsh can come in and play fullback straight away.
You wouldn't just shift Cameron to fullback and Hunt back into the halves?
I don't think so. Reece Walsh hasn't done much wrong.
No, he hasn't at all. And I reckon, he deserves to be in the squad of 19 or 20. And he'd be when I wrote down my team, he was actually my 19th man.
Yeah.
Because obviously, they'll have two blokes warm up right till the very end. And
yes.
If a back goes down, well, he's there and he's ready to go. I'd carry probably someone like Cotter as 18th man. I just don't think Cotter's done enough to be in the 17 this year.
No, I don't think so either. And with the 18th man, I understand what you mean, but I just think it's the fact that we've got so many middles who can play big minutes.
Yeah.
So would it be the craziest thing in the world to see Carrigan play 80, Welch play 60, and Tino play 60? Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, because the way Fafita's going, he probably plays 60 to 80 anyway at the moment. He's fitter than he's ever been. Yeah. Kafusi, when you've played that many games, you know how to get yourself through 80 minutes of footy. So he's going to play the best part of 80.
This might be the reason, though, for this might be the dilemma with Fafita. If you don't start Fafita, how do you get him in the game?
He has to start, in my opinion. He just has to. He's playing too good. What about that? We'll call it an intercept try, but that try he scored yesterday. Yeah. No one put a yard on him. Yeah.
It's pretty...
It's whether or not he's that quick or they just didn't want to get close enough to get palmed.
He's a bit of a freak.
He is, isn't he?
And it's great to have... they're match winners. You know, Dave Fafita, would it shock you to see him, break 4 tackles and score a try?
No, yeah, exactly right.
So, look, I'm all for the Dave Fafita selection. And if it means dropping Cape, well, then I'm for that as well. Because I think it's more important to get Fafita into the team than not. We'll move on to New South Wales. The one and the halves will be the same.
Yeah.
Tedesco, Luai, Cleary.
Yeah, agree.
Okay. So the wings, where have you gone?
Well, let's do the easy one first. Brian To'o's one wing.
Yes.
Who's your other winger?
Josh Adokar.
Okay.
If fit.
So I haven't even done the consideration for him if fit, because I just don't think he's going to be right to go. If he plays one game, they won't pick him for Origin. He had to play on the weekend, I think.
All right. So,
but again, don't change the team.
If Adokar,
if he's not fit, who do you go with?
Okay. So, if he's not fit, Travojevic is on one wing and To'o's on the other.
Yep.
And the centres are Graham and Latrell.
Okay. So I've got To'o, one wing. I've got Latrell and Turbo in the centres. If for whatever reason Turbo's not fit, that's when Campbell Graham gets a start. But I've got actually Stephen Crichton as my other winger.
So you've got... The only way Campbell Graham makes your New South Wales team is if Josh Adokar and Tom can't play.
Well, I haven't even considered Adokar. I just think he doesn't play.
Okay.
And you know game
what?
2...
I don't think he'll be picked regardless.
Yeah. If he'd played on the weekend or had not got injured, I think he was a lay down to get picked.
So this is what we would do. What do you think they'll do? Because I think Suwali will play.
I think they'll go with Travojevic and Latrell in the centres.
with Sawali on a wing.
No, I don't. I think they'll go Campbell Graham or Crichton on the wing.
I just get the
I reckon
feeling
they'll go
that
Campbell Graham on the wing.
they want to pick Sawali. They want to.
I don't think they will. Campbell Graham played for Australia on the wing in the World Cup just gone.
Yeah. Oh, I pick Campbell Graham all day. Front row, I've got Jake and Payne.
So I've gone. Jake is 50-50. He's injured, so I really don't think he'll be back in time. So my props are Junior Paulo and Payne Haas.
Okay, so Paulo's off the bench for me. At hooker, I've got Coruscant.
I've got Cook.
Okay.
Coruscant doesn't make my 17.
Cook's not in mine.
Okay.
So that's interesting. Back row, I've got Murray and Olakau'atu.
So do I.
And then Yo's the lock.
Yep.
Hines at 14.
Same.
And then I've got Paulo off the bench. I've got Tyson Frizzell.
Yep.
And I've got a bit of a smoky here, and I'd be keen to see how you react. Because New South Wales don't have a lot of forwards. Certainly not a lot of great ones.
Everyone's forgotten about Daniel Safidi.
Yep. Oh, I've forgotten about him here as well.
Yeah.
Like, not accidentally. I
you
just
just haven't picked him?
I
Yeah,
just haven't picked him. And I know this might be a bit of a curveball, but I've gone Jack DeBellin.
Yeah.
I think he's been outstanding this year in a terrible team.
Yeah.
I think he's been outstanding. And, if they're...
He would have played Origin a few years ago.
He did. He
well,
did.
Sorry, he did. Yeah, he played
A couple of games. So I think in a terrible team, Jack has been marvellous for them. And 18th man, I've got Hudson Young.
Well, I've got Hines as 14, Safidi. Then I've gone with Angus Crichton.
Yep.
With the been there, done that. He actually has shown enough over the last 2 weeks that, he would do a job, not a problem. And then I've got Jake Travojevic as my other guy on the bench. I really don't think he'll play. I think he's not going to be fit.
But we both agree if fit, he plays.
If fit, he plays. If not, I've gone Frizzell.
Yeah.
And then Hudson Young's not far away. Liam Martin's not far away. I mean, Liam Martin's probably hard done by. He's been in that side for 2 series now, and has done a good job. He's just coming back from injury himself.
This is the first time in a long time, I think, that Queensland has had a clear edge in the forwards. To me, it's a lay-down misère that Queensland's pack's better.
Yeah.
And you might say Payne Haas is the best forward.
Yeah,
right,
I reckon it's close. It is close. The return of form from Fafita probably gives us the edge.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you didn't have him in your pack, your starting side.
No, I had him off the bench,
Yeah.
and on reflection, I do think that he has to start.
Yeah,
because I just don't know how you get him in the game. If you
he needs to be out there for as long as he can, doesn't he? Just and from the beginning of the game.
Yeah, Olakau'atu and Murray's a great back row though.
Yeah, it is. And then with Murray, they could easily roll him through the middle. So it wouldn't shock and that's why I said Frizzell if Travojevic isn't right. And I've got Crichton on the bench anyway, because Crichton just goes out to that edge. Murray comes through the middle like a prop and get that late footwork and quick play of the ball. He'd just cause havoc.
So one disagreement we've got is you've gone Cook, I've gone Coruscant.
Yeah. What are your reasons?
So the Penrith connection is obvious with Luai and Cleary, and I think something that would strengthen Coruscant's case even more is if James Tedesco gets hurt, because I think they'll go Dylan Edwards. So just to get the band back together.
That changes everything. I just think Cook's in the best form he's been in since.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I really do. I think it's taken. So Cook was a running hooker, and he was an electric running hooker, and all of a sudden he came from nowhere and made New South Wales and Australia. Then he had a coach for 3 years who doesn't like his hookers to run.
Yep.
It's just give the ball, give the ball, give the ball. Demetrio clearly likes a running hooker again, and it's taken that first year back playing with a coach that wants him to run again, I think, to get his groove going. And I just think Cook's been so dangerous from dummy half this year. And Coruscant has been yuck.
But I think he's victim of where he is at the moment. And you know what? they criticised Josh Adokar last year, and they've said that they didn't pick him because of the Dogs' form at the time. And the Dogs were going just about as good as the Tigers are now. And so if they're consistent, they'll pick Cook happily. And they probably will. But I just think with Yeo, Cleary, Luai...
I get what you're saying, definitely,
It makes a lot of sense to me. But there's a lot of pressure on them to get this right because correctly or incorrectly, if they lose game one, Luai is probably going to be gone.
Yeah. Unless he's excellent.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Luai's probably going to be gone. Whoever is the hooker might get changed. So if Cook's in there for game one, they lose. It's probably going to go to Coruscant.
Yeah.
So the difference between the game one team and the game two team, if New South Wales lose, could be stark as far as the important positions.
What do you reckon we would do if Tom Trbojevic was a Queenslander? Would we pick him? Yes or no?
Of course we would.
Of course we would. I don't know why they're even, he's at 80%, but he's going to try his guts out. The Trbojevics aren't bred to not have a crack.
Well, Jake didn't play game one last year.
Yeah.
And they lost.
Yeah, that's right.
And Jake, if he was a Queenslander, would not have missed a game of State of Origin for the last 8 years or however long he's been in the league.
They'd be mad not to pick Tom, whether it's in the centres or on the wing.
Yeah. Do you think Freddie has a conversation saying, because Tom seems like a pretty honest dude, pretty sort of down to the earth sort of guy.
Well, hypothetically speaking, say I knew someone involved with Tom.
Yeah.
I reckon they would say that he just needs some confidence. He's fit. He just needs to find, and there were signs yesterday of improvement. So physically, all the tests, everything you can look at, he's okay. He might not be 100%, but he's not 70%. He's a lot closer to 100 than what people think.
The biggest positive to pick Tom for State of Origin, I feel, is that right now at Manly, he is the go-to guy.
Yeah.
If he goes into the State of Origin team, he is not at all the main focus of attack.
He can just do his job. He can sit out on the right side of the field and play like a centre. It probably would suit him down to the ground. He actually got through quite a bit of work on the weekend as well. I think he did 19 or 20 hit-ups. So if your body's not right, you're not doing that amount of work.
No doubt.